Now we are joined by Professor Wilfred, Professor of Social and Economic History, Department of History and International Studies, Federal University of Latvia, Nasarawa State, to share his views on the current step taken by the President. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Good evening, it's a pleasure having you. Thanks.
All right, so how would you assess Tinubu's restructuring of ministries and ministerial portfolio announced yesterday, considering that it was long awaited?
Yeah, first and foremost, this is something that President Tinubu, as a transformational leader under the All Progressive Congress, a change agenda, had come out clearly to say that any minister that was not performing would be dropped. And of course, he made that very clear and had this expectation that non-performing ministers, would be asked to leave, and said it repeatedly that he was going to reshuffle his cabinet, midway in, just to make sure that he achieves his administration's goals. And he has lived up to expectation, and he has done just that. The cabinet reshuffle, some being dropped, some being appointed. To some extent, it's a welcome thing, and most especially the kind of reforms that come in. The major of some ministries, that of culture, and tourism, and of course, what you may say, reforms in the sport ministry, and being established what has been, that would take over that as a commission. And I think this is a welcome thing in the right direction. And the scrapping of the ministry for Niger Delta, development, and being replaced by the ministry, for regional development. We remember very clearly that President Tinubu came up with this regional structure as the fulcrum and the framework for development in Nigeria. The 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria will serve as regions. And I think this is one right step in the right direction, in that, in most of these regions across Nigeria, the 6 geopolitical regions across Nigeria, federal presence is not so much. For a long time, the Niger Delta Ministry has been there, and it appears as if it's only one section of this country that has been so cared for and being carried along, by this country for so long in terms of investment of federal presence. So what we now have on board as a result of these reforms, the establishment of the Ministry for Regional Development, and of course the appointment of the minister in that respect, means that each of these 6 attention in terms of development.
All right, Professor. So 10 ministers have been reassigned to new portfolios, while 5 were discharged and 7 other ministers nominated for new portfolios. Will this change inject or bring about the new drive of optimal performance in President Tinubu's cabinet?
Yeah, we had expected that some of these ministers will go. Remember, the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs, for instance, and the kind of scandals that came around that office in recent times, and it's a good one, in line with the public image that she has been dropped. And we think that in the overall interest of the nation, in terms of trying to bring you on board, Tinubu is trying to do a great job in that respect. And one area that we can clearly see also, and it shows clearly his interest in that area, is education. And of course, has been able to drop the former minister and to bring up another person, appoint another person in that respect. We do hope that with this kind of changes that come in, that Bola Tinubu, will be best positioned to see how best, like we said it again, to transform this nation, and of course to achieve some of the strategic, goals of the All Progressive Congress in this country.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, Professor. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure.
All right, that's Professor Wilfred, Professor of Social and Economic History, Department of History and International Studies, Federal University of Latvia, Nasarawa State.